Welcome back to the issue review from Haiti Liberté, and I'm glad you're joining again for another installment of our breakdown of each week's headlines from the new issue of Haiti Liberté. And the other new thing you might notice is lack of a beard for this week's installment. Other than that, I'm going to continue breaking down our headlines from this week's issue. This is volume 19, issue number 17, from October 22nd to the 28th, 2025. So let's go in and break down our headlines for the week. And starting off this week on our cover page, we have a picture of the assembled members of the Presidential Transitional Council, CPT or TPC, the illegitimate, unelected body which is running Haiti and as appointed by Washington, D.C., and they are convened in a meeting with the U.S. Embassy staff present, such as the Charge d'Affaires, Henry Worcester, Mike Henke, who is the head of the U.S. Embassy in Haiti. And the headline for this cover article for the week is Dictat de Washington à ses lackeys, to the lackeys of Washington, which is how the CPT Presidential Council has acted, continues to act as the lackeys of the U.S. empire. Our subtitle, tous les conseillers présidentiels, sans exception, étaient présents pour recevoir les ordres de leur supérieur. So, as mentioned before, a couple of important figures to know at the other end of the table there, and the members of the Transitional Presidential Council. Currently, Laurent Sincere is the rotating member who has become the stand-in for the Comprador state at the moment. Our next cover article has a very nice graphic design cartoon to really depict what's going on with Uncle Sam, and a couple pieces of legislation which are important to know. And the headline for this article, La stratégie dominicaine de déstabilisation d'Haïti from 2010 to 2025. La loi Hope Help est le plus grand piège économique du XXIe siècle pour Haïti. These two laws, Hope and Help, are laws that allow for duty-free imports of manufactured goods from Haiti. And it's one of the key ways that the U.S. has proletarianized Haiti, turned Haiti into a producer nation for the consumer nation. And we will discuss a little bit more how that occurred, and how these two pieces of legislation keep Haiti in a state of comatose dependency upon the United States. As always, we have our side headlines which show some images for our upcoming articles. We have Gaddafi, for example, there, and we will break down these headlines when we turn the page over to them. Our editorial from the week from our director, Bertini Dupont. Aider Haïti, c'est aider le peuple à organiser sa révolution. I think a great quote to encapsulate this week's editorial comes at the very end, and it's a quote worth reading, so I will highlight this one as we are breaking down this editorial, which is discussing generally how the question of aid is continually coming up with Haiti, and there are many good-hearted people who care and have compassion, but are sort of misguided with how they approach helping, and their help sometimes does more harm than good. And we've referenced, of course, the dialectic, the dynamic of the hand that feeds, controls, how the NGO industrial complex and the humanitarian organizations really go in, and there's a lot of white saviorism that occurs. So this editorial striking a very clear response and decree to that. And the last line, sais-tu ce qu'il attend de l'aide, de la solidarité et rien d'autre? solidarity or nothing. There's nothing other than solidarity that can really be offered, and that's a very clear position, a key central piece of the organizing philosophy and the approach to counter imperialism, which is an alternative form of aid that we promote at Haiti Liberté. In our beginning to take our look at the affairs going on in Haiti this week, à travers Haïti, we have our cover page article, Dictat de Washington, Essai l'acquis, and Lucie Piti et son gouvernement au ramassis du voleur, d'esclaves, du gang et d'incompétents au service des États-Unis. Again, summarizes it pretty well, that especially even if we can take a look at the breakdown of the positioning and the way this image is presented, we are looking through the camera at the assembled delegates there, and we sort of see them as almost on trial in front of us, presented before us as the guilty party and the ones who have brought a lot of the destruction. Not single-handedly, of course, they have a lot of help in that respect, and one of the key figures, one of the key characters in this tragic comedy is Henry Wooster, l'actuel gouverneur du pays, le charge d'affaires américaine, Henry T. Wooster, the real governor, the actual governor in charge, Henry Wooster, sitting there with his hands clasped, looking rather demonic in this picture. And of course, all these parties work together to create the devastating situation that exists in Haiti. They work hand in hand. They're all guilty. They're all incriminated in this bloody affair that is ongoing, and they're foot soldiers on the ground that help them maintain that chaos to their benefit. La mission multinationale du soutien à la sécurité, MMAS, dirigée par le Kenya, a été transformée en force de répression des gangs, FRG. So this is a sleight of hand trick that has occurred that we've been covering. A new observer may be thinking that this situation has always been in stasis, but in fact it is dynamic and it's evolving, and there are moving pieces to keep track of how the Kenyan mission has changed now to a force for the repression of gangs that one must pay attention to, how the funding is being acquired for that, what nations are involved, and we have broken that down in our live stream podcast. You can check out those episodes and hear a little bit more the intricate details of how that FRG force is being established. But other than that, this discussion occurred, and the dictates that the Presidential Transitional Council is receiving is essentially make sure this force that is now going to be deployed is safely allowed to come in and do the bidding of the bourgeoisie, protect their property, their upscale mansions, their underground pools, etc., and maintain the country in a state of decay and plight for the vast majority of the working class and those who are not fortunate enough to be Washington's established presence at the foot of government. Continuing in breaking down the many moving parts and the vast array of details of how Washington is maintaining its control over Haiti, we, in the last article, sort of looked at the actual characters and figures who are maintaining, being the stand-ins for Washington in Haiti, the comprador bourgeoisie. And here we turn to the economic side of that equation, how help, these two laws that have been put into place, are essentially being utilized to maintain cheap imports coming into the United States from Haiti, maintain Haitian workers at a very, very low subsistence wage that very much cannot satisfy the day-to-day needs that people have, but maintains them just enough so that they can come to work in the factories, such as those in Côte d'Ivoire that we've covered, that are being utilized utilized to produce cheap import, take advantage of the lack of mobility that many people have, the reserve army of labor, being unable to move, being caught in the really the border area between Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and thus being impressed into labor, proletarianized, and forced to make manufactured goods. So this article comes to us from Carvins Lusson and breaks down a little bit more these two laws. And it's important to mention that we've had articles about hope and help throughout Haiti Liberté's existence, and even going back into volume number 1 from 2008, we were covering hope and help, even going back to Bitter Cane, a film that talks about Haiti under Duvalier, talked about the ongoing proletarianization. So this is a process that has been developing over time. It is not new, but it's also something that has changed significantly in Haiti's economic array of productive forces. So good to see the contemporary, and of course this covers a 15-year period as well. Next in our section, always keeping abreast with events in the Dominican Republic, à travers la République Dominicaine, we have an article from the moving on Reconocido, which is a historical movement and a movement, the various movements that contribute to Haiti Liberté from the DR come to us from the Socialist Workers Movement, the movement in solidarity with undocumented immigrants in the DR. So this one coming to us focusing a little bit more on history and the title that attests to that, Notre histoire, notre langue et notre culture proclament avec force que nous sommes dominicains. The Dominican identity and its relationship to Haiti is quite fraught and complicated, but this is trying to emphasize that Haitians who go to the DR, should be protected, are Dominican, even irrespective of all the factors that undermine their identity in the DR, and very much the rhetoric of the pro-imperialist puppet government in Louis Abinader facilitates that to their benefit, to their advantage. But this, the movement Reconocido is saying no, people can claim their identity being Dominican. They may have Haitian ancestry as well. And of course, it is all one island divided by U.S. imperialism and ever since Columbus. Of course, with our Chronique Creole, we have our article which is talking a little bit about Kempes Sanon, and this is a little bit of a declaration from Kempes Sanon. Kempes Sanon déclaré, bataille, la pralée jusqu'au bout. The fight will continue until the very end, jusqu'au bout. And here's our picture of leader groupe armé non quartier populaire Bel Air à Kempes Sanon. So Kempes Sanon, leader of the popular quarter of Bel Air, and one of the allies of the GFR9, and an ally of Jimmy Cherizier as well, one of the popular defense, neighborhood popular defense organizations. Previously was not part of that, but in a testament to how things can change and do indeed change onto the side of the advantage of the revolutionary forces, switched his affiliation and joined after committing acts that were not in line with the revolutionary philosophy and the revolutionary movement's leadership, now joining up and committing to revolutionary action instead of simply criminal action or simply action just benefiting, profiting themselves. So interesting article for our Creole readers and those who may not know Creole but are curious about the balance of forces that are part of the revolutionary freedom fighters and one who has thrown their weight onto that side. We also have an obituary, Bel champ pour Bobby Denis qui traversait. Bobby Denis has passed away, and I will just take a little look just to inform readers who are not going to be able to read the Creole section a little bit about Bobby Denis. Uh, for example, one of the members of the Association of Journalists, of Haitian Journalists, Association Journaliste Haitienne. So Bobby Denis has passed away, and heartfelt condolences. And those who are able to read, of course, with technology, should read this obituary and learn more about it. We also have an ad for an event coming up. This is Symposium Langue Créole, Culture Haïtienne 2025. This is featuring the compas singer Coupé Cloué, and this will take place at Brooklyn College from the 31st of October to the 2nd of November. So anyone in Brooklyn, free to check that out. Coupé Cloué's music, very good, excellent music, and excited for that upcoming event.
The late Coupe Cloué. The late.
Oh, the late Coupé Cloué, who's passed away now, but whose music still
lives on.
Lives on. Continuing with our perspective section, we have Brésil, les dommages causés à Haïti dont on ne parle peu. And this article comes to us from Rafaela Curie from Brazil do Fato from the 17th of October. And a bit of a translation to explain the article. It's the damages caused against Haiti by Brazil in particular that Brazil doesn't discuss. So many of the atrocities committed by MINUSTA have been analyzed. For example, the Uruguayan soldiers who were raping young boys, the Nepalese soldiers who caused the cholera epidemic in Haiti, and this article breaks down a little bit the Brazilian soldiers and their own role in the crimes committed during the MINUSTA occupation, crimes which Lula participated in, continues to participate in, crimes that the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, sees his country participating in, much to their shame and disrepute. But this article breaks down a little bit more, and just another example of how the gang repression force will just repeat history, do the same thing. Last week we had our ad for the defense of social housing. Protest going to take place in New York, and it's still upcoming. It is Saturday, the 8th of November, so 2 weeks' time, and Fulton, NYCHA, for those in New York. We have from Catherine Charlemagne the continuing saga unfolding, Haïti d'une transition à l'autre. This is the 29th part of that, and in the mini saga within that series, d'un processus électoral à l'autre, la saga continue. And the 17th part, 17e partie, which talks about the continuing electoral maneuvering and devices that are being employed. Last week's article touched on a little bit of the referendum saga that was occurring in Haiti in May of this year, which was a referendum that was scheduled to be held that never took place, and how there were advertisements for it, but it couldn't be stitched together at the last minute by this unelected body. So this one breaks down the other side of that equation, which is this upcoming election in February 2026, which remains to be seen if that will ever transpire or ever actually happen, or if an election would even make a change in the governing body of Haiti, especially if it's still controlled by the U.S. In our English section, This Week in Haiti, we have a little bit of an expose on an organization which listeners may not know about, and that is the Technical Execution Unit, UTE, the Heart of Invisible Evil. This article comes to us from Kervin Lussan. It is a technocratic body which sort of works in the shadows and is responsible for, and this is a thing that exists in other countries, but it is very much part of this bureaucratization, alphabetization of the Haitian state. of uh, collecting contracts and doing business in the shadows. There's a subtitle, UTE, Guardian of the Market, Distributor of Privileges. And these organizations run with a total lack of democratic oversight. They are run by bureaucrats who, specifically by their function, are not going to tell you what their job is because they want to maintain their privileged status and the high wage that comes with being a bureaucrat. But this one specifically has outsized influence, as Kervins Louison explains more so. And there will be more of an expose of this organization in coming weeks, but it is important to see how technocratic organizations that function as part of the state, listeners may be familiar with how that happens in the US between the IRS, the FBI, the CIA, and all these acronymic organizations. This one is important to see in Haiti how the Haitian state is succumbing to that as well. And then in our English section from Moise Elena Jean Louis, we have an article talking a little bit about the Haitian Dominican Transnational Film Festival, which took place last week from which took place 2 weeks ago from October 9th to 12th in Harlem, and talking a little bit about the different films. Here are some of the different filmmakers who were present and their different movies, which were both Haitian and Dominican, and having a dialogue together. So, a film festival to break down walls of hate and misunderstanding. Excellent article worth checking out. In our centerfold, we have La Libye et le monde. Echo 15 ans après l'assassinat de Gaddafi. Talking a little bit about Gaddafi and 15 years after his assassination, the chaos that continues in Libya, in the Sahel region, and much of West Africa, the ripple effects that occurred after the US and NATO went in and deposed Gaddafi illegally, just sort of at their whim, with Obama and various other, Sarkozy and others participating. And Gaddafi, his legacy, his own philosophy with the Green Book, and how, just again, today we see Ibrahim Traore, we see the leaders, Assimi Goïta in Mali and in Niger, and how they have seized power in the absence of a state and the absence of any official democratic presence, because Gaddafi was overthrown, and his lack of presence has destabilized the entire region. So if you want to learn about that, that's part of the context for why that happened. Trump criminalise l'anticapitalisme. So, of course, the arch capitalist in chief, the businessman, deal maker in chief, has now criminalized anti-capitalism. It is against the law, and thus it is in the benefit part of the law of the United States to be pro-capitalism. This article comes to us from canariasemani.org, and translation from Bernard Ternare. Just continuing with Trump, making deals and suing people at whim, but this one particularly focused on how Venezuela has become the new scapegoat and the new enemy in Trump's second term, and how he's going to go after Venezuela. So this second article on the perspective side, kind of in response to that one, 7 millions de personnes sont descendues dans la rue à travers les États-Unis pour les manifestations No King, No King protests that were taking place against Trump, and trying to put together a movement that opposes the Trump administration and also seeks to overthrow the entire administration of the United States and all its various capitalistic, imperialistic forms and tendrils. On the other part of that, we have 140,000 personnes manifestent à Bruxelles contre l'austérité. So Brussels, protests going on against austerity, and also having in this caption, Coalition des féministes contre l'austérité. a source from Parti des Travailleurs du Belgique, so feminists in anger against austerity and the Belgian government. Continuing with perspectives, les criminels de guerre ne sont pas jugés. On leur offre des retraits dorés. I think it's well encapsulated by this picture of the Gaza waterfront, quote unquote, with the McDonald's and the Trump Tower present there, a nice cartoon. And this article comes to us from antiwar.com, translated from Brahim Madachi, and by John Reynolds. We have in our perspectives as well, du Nobel à Nobel, lettre ouverte du Pérez Esquivel à Maria Corina Machado, so recent winner of the Nobel Prize from Venezuela, who's in opposition, opposed to Nicolas Maduro. It's a letter coming from another Nobel laureate, Adolfo Pérez Esquivel, from Presenza, and an open letter trying to explore to what extent, and the poet, I should mention, a poet who won the Nobel Literature Prize, trying to talk to Corina Machado and say, why are you serving the interests of the United States against Venezuela and against Nicolas Maduro? Désormais, l'État génocidaire colonial et jugeait les criminels sionistes. And a solidarity march going on. We had a statement which was released in last week's paper from Hamas, the Islamic Jihad, and the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, the three powers, which talked about how we will never accede to the demands of Israel, and until Palestine is free with Al-Quds as its capital, there will not be there will not be a ceasefire. There will continue to be solidarity marches like those across Europe and across the world. And we have as well on this page the continuing articles from the film festival which took place in Harlem, the Dominican Haitian Solidarity Film Festival, as well as the technical executive article from Kevin's Louisant, with 11 different subtitles breaking down more about this UTE. Continuing in À travers le monde, Brésil, le MST organise des brigades internationalistes pour soutenir les Vénézuéliens en cause de l'invasion américaine. Solidarity brigades from the movement of displaced workers, the movement of landless peasants in Brazil, in solidarity with the Venezuelan people against imperialism. From Bangladesh, l'incendie d'un atelier de confection a fait 6 morts. So a burning of a confection workshop, which has caused 16 deaths in Bangladesh as part of the tragedy of production in Bangladesh, which has caused many fatalities and tragedies. And a serious piece of news coming out of Trinidad and with respect to Venezuela. 2 citoyens de Trinidad tués dans une attaque des États-Unis dans les Caraïbes. 2 Trinidadian citizens killed by the United States, even though the Trinidadian government continues to support the endeavors of the U.S. against Venezuela. The U.S. is killing their citizens. Argentine, la manifestation de l'international antifasciste en solidarité totale avec le Venezuela bolivarian. Solidarity march in Venezuela, in Argentina with Venezuela. And from the United States, États-Unis, démission du chef qui dirigeait les attaques dans les Caraïbes. So his demotion by the Trump administration despite him serving their interests in Venezuela. Thank you again for watching the issue review and this week's breakdown of the headlines, and we will see you next week for more headlines, more from Haiti Liberté.